Hey, friends, welcome to another Dr.Sev Talks Money YouTube and podcast episode. Today's topic is Ask Dr. Sev. I had 4 questions submitted to me, and I am going to do my best to answer those questions. In the meantime, if you have questions that you'd like me to answer, you can put them in the chat box, and I will do my best to respond. Before I get into the topic, I want to remind you that this is not advice, but educational in nature. If you would like to discuss your specific situation, please contact me via the Work With Me link on my website, or here I have it displayed, sevtalksmoney.com, work together. So let me dive into the first question, and it is around debt payoff. The question is, I have a lot of credit card debt that I want to pay off, but my income is limited. How do I pay off my debt? One of the first things I would say to this person is, can you go make extra income? The second thing is, what are your expenses? Is there something that you can cut? Because the bottom line is, in order for us to really manage our money, we have to know our numbers. We have to know what's coming in and we have to know what's going out. So, can you find a way to increase your income? And it can be a temporary thing. It doesn't have to be that you're going to permanently work on this thing that you're going to increase your income. It can be something that you can do temporarily because your goal is to pay off these credit cards. Can you cut back on expenses? One of the things that I'm doing right now is I'm going through and I am getting rid of subscriptions that I'm not using. It's not that the services are not great, but I'm not in a position to use those subscriptions right now. So I am getting rid of all of those subscriptions because my focus used to be, oh, I'm going to use it. I'm going to. But the fact is I'm not using it. So I want to get rid of the subscription that I'm not using. And at a later date, if I am wanting to use it, then I will sign up again. But for now, I'm not using them. So I'm getting rid of them. So that's something to consider. Can you increase your income? What are some ways that you can increase your income? Next week, I'm going to be talking about ways to make extra money. So come back next week and we will talk about some of those. The bottom line is you have to have a handle on your cash outflow and your inflow. There was a study done that says 65% of people at the end of the month know that they spent all of their money, but they don't know what they spent it on. And that's one of the traps of when you're trying to pay down debt is understanding, again, what's coming in. If you don't know your expenses, what's going to happen is if you increase your income, that money will just be gone somewhere and you don't even know where it's gone. So it's best to have a good handle on your expenses and what's coming in so that you can know what to shift around and be able to pay off your debt. So again, if you're wanting to pay off your credit card debt, those are some things to consider to be able to do that. And temporary, you can get rid of expenses and it doesn't have to be permanent. Let's say your TV service. Maybe you can get rid of that for a few months and to be able to take that money and pay down your debt. So there are things that we can do if we're willing to sacrifice and make changes. We should be able to do that. Again, if you have a job. Now, if you don't have a job, that's a different story, and that's a different broadcast. So the second question that I got was, I'm not prepared for student loan repayment. I'm scared. What do I do? Now, one of the first things again is to rework your budget because you want to get that student loan line item in your budget. But even if you've reworked your budget and you see that you don't have enough to cover the payment that you used to make prior to COVID, maybe your income changed, things may have changed prior to COVID. So what are some of the things that you can do? Contact your loan servicer. there is there are different things that they can do to help you. So, do you qualify for loan forgiveness? Ask them about that. What programs do they have for loan forgiveness that you may qualify for? The other thing you can look at is income driven repayment plans. Ask them about income driven repayment plans because that's contingent on how much you're making. So let's say before COVID you were making 100,000, but now you're only making $60,000. So your payment should change, but they won't know that unless you have a conversation with your loan servicer. um, Another thing to consider is deferment, and that typically, um, interest will accrue depending on the type of loan. So if you have an unsubsidized loan, interest will accrue while your loan is in deferment. You may qualify for deferment. So even if the interest is still accruing, at least you're not having to make that payment. Another option is forbearance. But again, if you don't talk to your loan servicer, you don't know what you're qualified for. So forbearance, interest usually accrues, and forbearance usually lasts 12 months at a time. So you can get forbearance for 12 months, and then they relook at your number again when you apply, and you can get it for another 12 months. For deferment, that can typically go up to 3 years, depending on the type of deferment you qualify for. So if you are, again, in the position where you're not prepared for student loan repayment, instead of being scared, well, it's okay to be scared. It's human to be scared. But let's put some plans in action. Contact your loan servicer, see what you qualify for in terms of loan forgiveness to see if there's any way you can restructure your payment. Look at your budget, see what's there to see if you can add in a line item. And going back to where I told that person about debt payoff, is if you can find a way to increase income to be able to knock out that student loan. Because when I was paying off my student loan, I still have student loans, but when I was very aggressive about paying it off, I drove Uber. I did a lot of things, and I'm going to talk about some of those next week when I talk about things that you can do to increase income. I drove Uber. I did all kinds of things to be able to get money to pay off student loans. Is another thing that you can do, even with the debt payoff question and student loans, is can you ask for a raise at your company? Can you see if your company can help you pay your student loans? Because some companies have those programs, but they don't advertise them. So see if your company can help you pay down your student loans. The government was at one point giving companies a break on their employment taxes if they paid up to a certain amount for their employees' student loan payment. So that's something that for you to consider also. All right. So I don't know if there are any questions. I don't see any. So I will go on to the third question. And that one was, which budget type is best for me? The answer to that is the one that works for you and the one that you'll stick to. There's no budget type that's going to work for anybody except the one that they will stick with. Now, there are different types of budgets. The one I like to use is zero-based budget because I'm assigning a name to every dollar that comes into my account. So, savings is a line item on there. My life insurance, my disability insurance, all of that is on my budget. So that's something that I have assigned different line items for my budget. So the budget type that you're going to use is the one that you're going to stick to. There's a 50-30-20 budget where 50% is your regular expenses like bills, groceries. 30% is discretionary. That's maybe entertainment, that sort of thing. 20% is debt and saving. So you can create a budget that's going to work for you. For me, I like spreadsheets. So I like to see all my numbers in one long spreadsheet where I can create calculations. I can see the cash flow. I can see what's going on in December versus January versus March. I like a spreadsheet. I don't like apps because they're limited. For me, they're limited in views, what I can see. So I don't like apps. So again, consider what's going to work for you. Some people do, the cash budget system or the cash envelope system. And for some people that makes sense, especially if you're a creative, that might work for you because you can see all the fancy envelopes. You can put the names on there, put your amounts in there. Of course, you wouldn't do that for fixed expenses like, car loan or a house, a mortgage. You would you'd pay that money out of your account. But like things like groceries, things like gas, entertainment, repairing your car, you may want to put that in an envelope, decorate it up, and be all fancy. Because here's the thing, psychologically, when you give a name to your budget, or to your numbers, you're less likely to just blow it on anything. You're going to be more targeted in how you spend your money. Okay, don't see any questions. Oh, there's one question that I will answer at the end. So question number 4 was, I can't save money to save my life. How do I change that? What worked for me is automating my savings. I created 3 separate online accounts from 3 different banks that I did not have quick access to. And I set up monies to automatically go to those accounts when I get paid. And that helps me to stay focused because those savings are a line item in my budget, and that money is going to those accounts. And the only time I know what's in there is when I go to balance, when at the end of the month, when I balance my checkbook to see what's going on for those accounts, and interest that's been accrued. Now, the regular account that I use, I check that one, at least once a week. But those accounts, because they're savings accounts and that's they're targeted for certain things, I don't look at those until the end of the month. So that helps me. So automation is one way that you can use to save money. And you want to name your accounts. I do that. And for me, because I name my account and I know this is vacation, I'm less likely to go use that money to go out to dinner because I know it's named vacation. It's just the psychology of it that I don't want to touch it for something else. So I hope that answered the question for those people that submitted those 4 questions. And then there was another question in the chat. How do I choose a bank for saving money? So for me, I'm looking for the automating savings. I'm looking for a bank where I don't have quick access. For the bank that I use for my everyday banking, I'm looking for convenience, I'm looking for their reputation, and I'm looking for how much interest I'm going to get on my money. So for everyone, it's going to be different. What are you looking for? Are you looking for a bank where you have easy access to your money? Then you may want to consider a brick and mortar. Are you looking for a bank where the money is out of your reach because you're prone to spending what you see? Then maybe you want to consider an online bank that doesn't have a debit card attached to it. So you have to think twice about putting that money. What is the thing that you are looking for in your banking experience? That's what's going to help you choose a bank for yourself. What am I comfortable with? Not what somebody else says you should choose. And not because it's a big name bank or it's a credit union or whatever. It's what am I comfortable with and what am I looking for in a banking relationship? So I hope those help to answer questions for those people who submitted questions. If you have questions, you can submit them in the chat and I will do my very best to respond to the question. So again, the first question was about credit card debt. How do I pay it off? The second one is about student loan. The third one was the budget type that was best for me. And then the third one is how do I save money? And then in the comment, how do I choose a bank for saving money? One of the main things you have to remember about personal finance is it's personal. So what works for me may not work for you. I'm anal. I love spreadsheets. I love to look at my numbers. I love to overanalyze. But for you, it may not be. Maybe you are a creative and you love fun things like my daughter. So, the envelope system may work for you because it's fun, it's colorful. So what is going to work for you and your personality type? and something that you are going to stick with. That's the key, because fads come and fads go. But what is something that's going to work for you, that you'll stick with, and that um, you're going to find value in that process. So I don't see any other questions in the chat. So thank you so much. And again, next week, I'm going to be talking about different ways that you can make extra income. I'm going to be talking about side hustles and different things that I use to make extra money, and then different things that I'm aware of that you may find interesting to make extra money. So until next Sunday, take care, and I will see you.